Well, here we are, segment number 3, which is part of pillar number 1, which deals with the CEO, leadership, self-improvement, self-development. And this particular segment deals with leadership. Leadership in driving business growth is critically important. That's pretty obvious. In today's business competitive environment, being average just doesn't cut it for any extended period of time. One needs to be exceptional for several reasons. First, the competitive landscape is always changing, and an exceptional leader is always looking to identify those aspects of it that gives him or her the edge. Number 2, your customers expect you always to get better. Whether they express it clearly or not, they're always looking for a higher level of service and experience. So that puts the spotlight, if you will, on the leader and the skills and traits they need to be exceptional. And what we're going to do now is go through what I believe are the 10 most important key leadership traits for a person to become exceptional in this environment in today's competitive world. The first quality of an exceptional leader is that they have a vision. So what does that really mean? They have a clear and specific description of what success likes in the future, maybe 1, maybe 2 years out. They're able to describe in that vision in detail where they are today, where they're going, how they will get there. Every aspect is covered in this journey. No stone is left unturned. They also, because they have clarity in their vision, they're able to identify quickly the appropriate action plans needed to make that vision a reality. And finally, they offer themselves alternatives, that if one path doesn't get them to where they want to go, there's a plan B or a plan C. The second quality is that they're a responsible risk taker. They realize that damage can be done by playing it too safe. Sometimes no decision is worse than a bad decision. Look, we're paid to get results, we're paid to move things forward. That at times requires taking a risk. You base that risk on the available information you have, whether it be complete or incomplete, but make no mistake, there's a time frame by which you need to take action, and that sometimes involves risk-taking. I often ask my audiences when I give a talk, how does a turtle move forward? And people say slowly, they say 1 step at a time. But a turtle moves forward by sticking his neck out. Be a responsible risk taker. Number 3, they are tested decision makers. As I said on many occasions, decisions lead to action, which lead to results, which leads to movement forward. If they can't make a decision, they're not a leader. Again, leaders evaluate the information they have at hand, they stay in the moment, and they make a decision as to what they're going to do to move forward. I think I once said a quote from Harry Truman, when asked, he's the President of the United States, what does he do when he makes a bad decision? He says he makes another one to make it right. It's that simplistic approach that exceptional leaders follow. Number 4, they're committed to ongoing learning. No one never stops learning. I think it was Coach John Wooden who said the best learning takes place after you think you know it all. You never want to close the door with the possibility to learning something new. You never know how that will benefit you going forward. And organizations and leaders who are constantly learning tend to stay more relevant. They avoid becoming stagnant. They avoid becoming a has-been, or worse than that, they avoid becoming a never was. You must have in place as an exceptional leader an ongoing program for your own personal development and improvement. And then, by the way, that translates down into your team. What's good for the leader is equally good for the team, because when everybody gets better, the company just automatically follows. Number 5 is that they're an effective communicator. They make certain that people understand what they say, what they want done, even if they have to have the person replay it several times. When a leader communicates, an effective leader communicates in the right way, he always makes certain that the message has been transmitted clearly so that the right outcome has been achieved. I've used the analogy in the past that good communication is like great oil in a brand new high-performance engine. It reduces friction so that all the parts work smoothly together. Conversely, when the oil goes bad, so does the engine. When communications are bad, so goes the company. Number 6, they're consistent. Many times client asks me about changing a policy, doing this, treating an employee that way. And my first bit of advice is be consistent. The minute you break from consistency is when you're going to get yourself into trouble. You can't be a leader who blows up one day and then has a smile from ear to ear the next. Now, I'm not suggesting either way is wrong or right, but what I am saying is be consistent with your emotions and in your behaviors and in your actions. Your team needs to rely upon and trust a leader who is consistent, someone they can depend upon and count on to act in a certain way based upon the circumstances. Number 7, this is critically important, exceptional leaders focus on outcomes. While they're interested in the tactics and the tasks, they're primarily interested in what is the outcome. What are we trying to accomplish? If you know the outcome, you know the time frames, you know the resources you need, you know the action steps, so outcomes are critically important. If you're a leader today, always learn to ask the question, what is the outcome we're trying to achieve by this action? Number 8, they set expectations and accountability. Expectations define what we want the individual to do, when to do it, how to do it, why they do it, who they do it for, and where does it all fit in. Expectations define the parameters by which our teams operate. If a leader doesn't set good expectations, trust me, the team will set their own. The leader creates a vacuum. And when you open the door to a vacuum, anything rushes in. So if you're the leader and you don't set the right expectations, your team will set them. And I can guarantee you they will not be the expectations that will get you where you want to go. Now, when we talk about accountability, the leader sets expectations and accountability. We sometimes talk about accountabilities when something goes wrong and someone says, Chris, I'm going to hold you accountable for this if it doesn't go right. Accountability starts at the very beginning when you set the expectation. The expectation is what you have to do, when to do it, how to do it. Accountability enters into that formula when you begin to describe why it needs to be done, who you're doing it for, and where it fits into the total picture. Our employees, our team members need to know all of those 6 elements so that they understand the ramifications and the consequences of poor behavior or poor performance. Accountability starts at the beginning. Lay it all out so your team members know exactly how they'll be measured. Number 9, leaders, exceptional leaders, place a high value on trust. There's an old expression, trust builds relationships, relationships builds business. So how do you develop trust as a leader? By being genuine, number 1. By being consistent, number 2. By wanting to know your employees as people, because they were people first before they became your employees or your team members. Next is your consistency in your actions. Showing concern and care for people and being there to help them grow. You build trust when you can demonstrate to your team members that you're primarily concerned with their growth and development. Leadership is not about the leader, leadership is about the team. And if you put your team first, because quite frankly, they're the individuals who are interacting with your customers. So if you put them first, that's sending a powerful message to them that they will trust you. You can be trusted. And if you make a mistake, own up to it. Fess up to it. Because when your team sees you making mistakes and owning up to it, they know you're human. And that in and of itself raises the trust factor. So they value trust. And finally, number 10, as a recap related to number 9, they value their team. They know their team can make or break their business. The success of a company is directly related to the quality of the team that the leader assembles and provides them with the tools to do their job. Never ever underestimate how important the team is to your company, to your growth. Invest in training them. Why would you not want to show somebody the right way to do something, give them feedback, provide them guidance? You're putting money out to run a business. You're putting money out and time, your personal wealth, at risk for you to grow and create something of a lasting effect. Your team is going to help you carry that bucket of water to the finish line. Invest in your team, value them, because at the end of the day, they will make or break you. So as we close out our discussion on leadership, let me leave you with a couple of final thoughts. Number one, stop making excuses. I think it was Thomas Edison, I'm not 100% sure, but if I'm wrong, somebody let me know, that people who make excuses rarely make anything else. Next, stop talking about what you're going to do and just go out and do it. Next, if you're going to be an exceptional leader, get used to being lonely. I have a client who was basically paralyzed by the fact that all of his actions are demonstrated with the conclusion, gee, I hope they like me. When you're the leader, you can't be liked. You'd like to be, and if you can, that's gravy on the top. But as a leader, you want to be understood, you want to be respected, you want to be seen as credible, so that if you have to share bad information or take tough action, people will at least understand why. So that sometimes causes it to be a little bit lonely at the top. So get used to that. And finally, learn to burn the boats because there's no turning back. Some of you may have heard the story of Hernan Cortez, who led an expeditionary force to a foreign land to steal the treasure of the inhabitants there. Now when they got there with him and his troops, his men, they learned that they were outnumbered almost 10 to 1. So the first order Cortez gave was to burn the boats. Now in reality they beached the boats, but saying they burned the boats is far more dramatic. But be that as it may, he eliminated any possibility of people turning back. So what's the moral there? When you're facing challenges, when you're the leader pushing ahead to make your vision a reality, it's going to stretch the limits of your comfort zone. And you don't want to have it an easy path back to being where you were as a never was or maybe a has-been. You want to be able to move forward, take the challenge, and become a success. When Cortez said to his men to burn the boats, they asked, but sir, how will we get back? And he said to them, well, we're going to defeat them and we'll take their boats to bring the treasure back home. Burn your boats. The treasure is there for you to take. Well, we've completed now the third segment, the third of 3 segments for pillar number 1 of our Driving Business Growth series. And pillar number 1 dealt with leadership, self-improvement, self-development. And leadership was the third segment, which was preceded by productivity as well as mindset. And like I did for those other 2 segments, with respect to leadership, we covered the importance of a vision, being a risk taker, a tested decision maker, being committed to ongoing learning, an effective communicator, being consistent, the ability to focus on outcomes, setting expectations and accountabilities, placing a high value on trust, and the importance of valuing your team. These are qualities, traits, skills, habits of an exceptional leader. What you need to do is, again, take a look at those 10 characteristics and determine 1 or 2 that you think you need to be better at or that you want to strengthen. And once you've identified those 2, then identify the first 3 steps you will take under each one of them to get you on a path to whatever you want to achieve in terms of a higher level of performance or an improvement over your current status. We only grow when we take focused, committed action. And that's the reason you've invested in yourself in buying the Driving Business Growth program, for you to get better. It's time for you, as I said before, to stop talking about what you want to do and take the appropriate action.